up this weekend at the women's flyweight division, we have a matchup between Mariya Agapova, Demonslayer, taking on Gillian the Savage Robertson. And Matt, a lot of people might not know, but there pretty much is a built-in rivalry in this matchup because both of these ladies used to train at American Top Team proper. And now, Mariya Agapova trains at American Top Team Sunrise. Gillian Robertson trains at the Goat Shed. That's kind of the reason why she's been away for a little bit. Listen to an interview that she did with James Lynch of MMA Sucka for this one. She did back August 16th, and she kind of touched on that point. That was why she was away. Originally, this fight was supposed to be Melissa Gatto versus Robertson. Gatto's out, in steps Agapova, but there has been some notice for this matchup. So again, both these women have trained before, Matt. I think this is time to break it out. You know there's going to be some bad blood, but I don't have the Taylor Swift one. So I have the Ryan Adams cover, 1989, the vinyl. You like that one, Mac? You like the Ryan Adams version that he did of all the covers of the Taylor Swift songs? I did enough that I decided to buy it. But there will be some bad blood in this matchup. And when it does come down to it, Mariya Agapova can be a very, very aggressive grappler when it suits her. When it does not suit her, oh boy, does boxer Marina Moroz have a lot going for her.
But the problem is, Gillian Robertson is cut from that cloth. I would love to believe that Gillian Robertson is a great all-around grappler. But in the UFC, she really hasn't shown that ability, if we are being completely honest. She's a great offensive grappler. When she's the one being able to dictate the terms under which she's grappling in a fight, she will have a lot of success, and I thought she would have similar levels of success no matter what position she was in on the mat, too. It didn't just have to be off that top control. She'd be able to work her way out from her back, get back up to her feet, and then dominate with her own wrestling again. But Gillian Robertson is somewhat heavy on her back. It's like wrestlers are kind of like a tortoise. Like if you flip them on their back, they kind of become helpless. And that's because when you're a wrestler, we don't really train to be on your back that much. The sport normally ends the second you do, so you just get back up and keep on scrambling. With Robertson, that has been an issue for her, and we're going to talk about this a lot more when Aspen Ladd fights Sara McMann, because Sara McMann is pretty much the poster child for this. But for Robertson, I really do like her wrestling in this fight, and I really hope she does try to use that part of her game, because for Agapova, she is the more volatile striker. I do think she has more power on the feet. She does have very erratic movements from time to time on the feet. But Robertson just plods forward. And unless Gillian Robertson's been able to add some large new wrinkle to her game that I have not been able to foresee whatsoever, I think she's always going to struggle against anybody who is in the borderline rankings. Because that's the thing about Robertson. She's been around for a while now. Like, she fought Molly McCann all the way back when Jorge Masvidal fought Darren Till. That was a long,
back before it was cool to beat Molly McCann.
No. You have to understand though, that fight was fresh off the Demetrius Johnson Ben Askren trade. We were doing trades in MMA. It was so long ago. And she's still fighting people who, if we're being honest, are still somewhat around that entry level of fighters. I know Agapova's been around for a little while, but you don't really expect her to beat a lot of fighters who have had 5, 6, 7 fights in the organization.
Well, that's the really weird thing. So Gillian Robertson came in off the Ultimate Fighter season 26. She's 7-5 in the UFC. Like, she, in terms of all-time women's flyweight, metrics, and the division hasn't been around for very long, but she's tied for number 1 all time with the most fights in this division with 12. Caitlin Chukagian's the one that she's tied with. She's number 1 with finishes and submission wins. She's got 6 finishes and 5 submission wins. So you listen to the interviews and you read the stories about those interviews. Gillian Robertson wants to take her down in this fight. Gillian Robertson has 2 brothers that fight with Combate that are great training partners to work her grappling and to work her wrestling. And if you look at these two in terms of their styles, when Robertson wins, she's taking these women down and she's submitting them. Look at her fight against Priscilla Cachoeira. That's a very good example. When Mariya Agapova is winning, she's taking fighters down, finishing them, or utilizing really good striking. But when Mariya Agapova is struggling with the takedowns, well, look at her fight. Shanna Dobson, she went way too hard in the first round, didn't have anything in the second round, gets finished on the ground. Her fight against Marina Moroz, well, Marina Moroz is the poster child for pop, 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 pop.
She did an armbar Joanne Calderwood way back in the day.
That's true, and that was way back in the day, but you're right.
I don't know how I remember that.
But in that matchup against Agapova, Moroz just went straight for the takedown, hold her up against the cage, get her down, and Moroz had a great first round, and then in the second round, got her down. You talk about wrestlers struggling off their back. Moroz got her in a triangle choke, and Agapova couldn't do anything off her back once she even got close to that position. But on the flip side, you can't forget about the 2 Agapova wins. And I realize level competition is what it is, but both of her wins that she has in the UFC, the first one over Hannah Cifers, the second one over Sabina Mazo, are both performance bonus winning fights. So that's kind of the one for Agapova. Is it buy low, sell high? I don't really know what it is with Agapova anymore, because when she is in these fights, especially in the Moroz fight, the commentary's like, look at her striking. She's just cocking back that left hand, and she just walking around with her left hand just way out here and not doing anything. She's almost like Bubbles on Trailer Park Boys, like why I oughta, but then she never throws it. So it really is tough to tell what you're going to get out of both these women in this match.
I think Mariya could win this fight on the feet. The problem is, I just don't think this fight's going to be contested on the feet very much. I do like the wrestling out of Gillian Robertson. That's the one difference between these two fighters. Robertson's a good grappler, a good wrestler, and a poor striker if you just want to break down her game in the most basic of terms. Agapova, let's say, is a good yet basic striker. She at least has the advantage in that world, let's say, in this matchup. Is a poor wrestler and is a good grappler, let's say, just to give her that benefit of the doubt. Gillian Robertson has the ability to make this fight under whatever terms she wants them to be under. If she's comfortable with her striking, I think she will be able to go out there and work her own jab a little bit. I just don't love the striking of Robertson, so I don't think that's what we're going to see. But I do think that the wrestling of Robertson is at least going to be enough for her to gain top position, and that's really the key for both of these fighters. They can both look great in that top position, but they both do struggle defensively on the mat, and that's why I do think the wrestling is such an X factor for Robertson.
And if you believe everything that she said, that's where she's invested for this camp. So you look at the odds on this one. Robertson opened as the underdog at plus 110. She's a minus 146 favorite or thereabouts on best fight odds. For Agapova, open minus 130, plus 120. So the odds have flipped, and if you liked Agapova when she was the favorite, maybe you really like her as she's the underdog. We have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprised to us as they are to you. Again, 2 performance bonuses for Agapova, but she's looked really bad in the 2 losses that she's had. And for Robertson, she's 1-3 in her last 4. Some of them have been competitive. She struggled against decent wrestlers, but I'm going to say that the fans like Robertson. So I'll go over under 70% Robertson.
I'll say under, but she'll be the favorite.
Yeah, look at that. And they are really close. So 784 total votes, 55% with Robertson, 24% by decision, 68% by submission. For the 45% that have Agapova, 71% by decision, 9% by submission, 13% by knockout. The percentages are never exact to make 100, but they're close. For me, I look at this fight, Matt, and Agapova fought Tracy Cortez, who can wrestle, on Dana White's Contender Series. 2 of those judges scored it 30-26, and one of them scored it 29-27. But Agapova struggled heavily with the wrestling in the first round and the second round. Couldn't get off her back. There was over 10 minutes of control time for Cortez. And then in the third round, Agapova was able to rally a little bit in that one. So maybe she's able to rally against Gillian Robertson or keep her off of her. But I like Robertson with her wrestling advantage. And again, we know that this is a fact. Gillian Robertson is the best submission threat in the UFC's flyweight division since it's existed. So I'm going to go with Robertson in this matchup, but it is a very volatile one.
Exactly, and that's because neither fighter is the highest of ceilings, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Again, I do like the wrestling from Robertson. I think that'll help her dictate where this fight takes place. And if she's able to do that, I do like her to win by submission or decision. That's the thing. Both fighters are kind of susceptible to the submission, even though they both are very good in that realm. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got a finish on the mat, but I just like Robertson.
Let us know who you have in this matchup. Will it be Demonslayer, Mariya Agapova, aggressive nickname, taking on the savage Gillian Robertson? It doesn't happen very often where we go with our fellow Canadian, but both of us going with Robertson to get the win. Big time main event coming up this weekend. Song Yadong's fighting Corey Sandhagen. You better check it out. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.